Hi and welcome back to my channel. I am the Spell Singer and this is my ongoing review of the Fighting Fantasy Gamebook series. And in this review I'm going to give you a quick look at this title with its book number, and then I'll read the blurb to you. We'll look at the plot and see where it lies with the location within Titan for this one. Then I'll go through the game mechanics and take a look at the adventure sheet, and then run the artwork through this video, have a chat about that artwork. And then I'll go into some of my own likes and dislikes, any fun facts that I might have, any errors, give you a summary and a score, and I'll finish on a shout out. So yeah, just before I start, I want to thank some new subscribers to this channel. Kevin Jeffries, James Hanna, Solon, Christian Lott, and Thomas 4, I think pronounced that right. Thank you, welcome. So yeah, we have got book 37. This is Portal of Evil, and this is by Peter Darvill Evans. So the fella that wrote Beneath Nightmare Castle. So this is book number 2 for Mr. Darvill Evans, and it came out in 1989. And this cover here was by David Gallagher. But the internal artwork is by good old Alan Langford. So there's no one better than Alan Langford to give you lots of kind of reptilian artwork, right? So yeah, he's on board too. Yeah, so that is this title with its book number. Now the blurb, if I read you my copy, it says here: no one has ever set foot in the dense forest lying to the west of the Cloudhigh Mountains until now. Gold fever has hit these inhospitable woodlands, and the consequences are terrifying. Some deadly, ancient evil has been disturbed, and the whole area is suddenly terrorised by mysterious, prehistoric creatures. It's up to you, a renowned and hardy adventurer, to destroy the ancient evil before it's too late. So yeah, that's the blurb for Portal of Evil. Okay, so the plot and the location for this book. You're in the area surrounding the Cloudhigh Mountains, I think it's called, and this has been beset with the gold fever mentioned in that blurb. And after several kind of successful strikes, the digging has uncovered this ancient evil alongside all the precious metal, all the gold that can be found there. And you must locate the source of all these strange monsters which have been or besieged the region almost. They're kind of like come out of nowhere, and they're rampaging kind of around all the woodlands and all the areas. So you've kind of got to deal with all this. You've got to deal with this portal as well, which has been located. Travel through it in order to get to the other side and deal with this threat, whatever it may be. And the book is set in the same region of Cool as Peter Darvill Evans' previous book, Beneath Nightmare Castle. So he's obviously a big fan of Cool. Okay, so this adventure, yeah, like I say, it's set in the southwestern part of the continent of Cool, and the forest range between the cities of Neuburg, which is again a nod to his previous book, and Zagula. And the storyline is completely unrelated, of course, to his previous book, but this time the plot it revolves around this mining business in the mountain range near this forest. So strange dinosaur-like creatures, like I mentioned, they've suddenly begun to appear, and they've been attacking the settlers and all the miners inside the forests. A reward has been offered for a warrior who can investigate the origin of this menace and kind of put an end to it, essentially. And the lure of a profitable job kind of turns into an epic quest against an enemy who wants to kind of control the world of Titan. So pretty standard fare, take over the world, that whole thing. But in terms of location for this book, we're back in Titan. So the world of Titan, so you can see here on the map, but most predominantly we're back in the continent of Cool, which you can see here. And in the southwest, if we zoom in into Cool, we've got the southwest near Neuburg and Zagula. And if I go even closer into Leo Hartis's classic map work, you can see exactly where this adventure is taking place. Right, let's crack on with the game mechanics and adventure sheet. So the game mechanics, the interesting thing about the game mechanics in this book is that there aren't really any. There's no new mechanics at all in this book. Nothing new. It's only the second book by Darvell Evans, of course. But mechanic-wise, yeah, no real change. There's no skills to learn, no techniques to understand. So it's your standard basic fantasy romp. But yeah, you start with a map of the region, of course, which is on the inside cover, that one I just showed you, by good old Leo Hartis. You've got your leather armour, of course, you've got your sword, you've got a couple of provisions, but that's it. And the adventure sheet as well is pretty standard. You've got your skill, stamina and luck, your equipment list, some gold, potions, if you have any, and your provisions. So not an awful lot to talk on in terms of the mechanics. I mean, of course, it's got its puzzles and whatnot, which I'll touch on later, but that's it. Right, artwork for this book, Portal of Evil. The colour map that I just showed you on the inside front cover was by, of course, Leo Hartis, but weirdly in the Dragon version edition of this book, sort of post-1992, the colour map is inserted, is reproduced in black and white on the last page, which is a bit weird. But yeah, good old Anna Langford is back with his unique ability to kind of portray those dinosaurs and lizards alike in an amazing way. The illustrations of the landscapes are very evocative. There's lots of imagery of the world beyond the portal. It's both strange and alien, as you would imagine it would be. An interesting use of silhouettes is used throughout this book. Lots of sort of variety with all the wood elves, the slave warriors, and all the wizards and such. Langford shows an amazing use of texture and light in his work, as always. He has a good use of shadow and detail. With all his characters have lots of memorable expressions portrayed on them. And similarly is the quality of the cover. So you got your cover here. So of course, David Gallagher is back on board, portraying this portal here. You can see the portal in the background where this slave warrior is walking his pet dinosaur through into the world Titan, into Cool. So it's quite a nice cover. It does a good job, does exactly what you need. Kind of draws you in nicely as well, and it gives you a promise of lots of dinosaur fisticuffs. Right, I've got a favourite picture, as always, which are the salt suckers, which is this picture here. I'm going to read the reference to you so you can sort of see what's going on in this one. So it says here, "You tear the blindfold from your eyes and cry out in horror as you see the monstrosity that is clinging to your chest. It is a salt sucker from the southern deserts. It will graze harmlessly on the salt of your skin as long as you keep still. Your any violent movement has alarmed it, and it will attempt to wrap its tentacles tightly around your limbs while drawing your body with its beak-like mouth. Because your feet are bound and you're encumbered by the salt sucker's tentacles, you must reduce your skill by 2 for the duration of this fight." And then, of course, you go into this battle. But the key is to, if you can, is to not panic, and the thing just falls off like a face hugger. Okay, so my likes and dislikes for Portal of Evil. I love the way the book handles all the numerous dinosaur encounters. Some of the dinosaurs have their own handlers. Others are kind of just like just being led by them, you know. So you've got the ones that are the handlers. They're using the dinosaurs to kind of extort money from people, you know, by threatening them. And you've got the others that are trying to sort of defend themselves from the hunters. So you've got a nice bit of variety there, and it works really well. The various dinosaur combat stats are especially well thought out. In that they have a low skill, yet quite a high stamina. So that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, some of these dinosaurs, they're going to be bumbling around with a low skill. They may not be the quickest things, but they have huge stamina. They're really strong. So that's a good bit of thought from good old Darvell Evans there. Yeah. Also, some have some special attacks. that they can sort of throw at you. So it's quite well thought out, that you have to, use a little bit of imagination, a little bit of thought to sort of defend yourself against these creatures. So this all handled quite realistically, and also some will lose interest in the fight with you if they can't get an easy meal, so that's quite smart too. And of note is the fact that all these species are described as extinct on the continent of Cool, which must be distinctly different from the continent of Alancia, where all the dinosaurs are alive and well. I'm not so keen on the lack of mechanics, but it doesn't really take anything away from this book. But maybe there could have been at least one new mechanic just to sort of set it aside from the author's other titles. The first act is kind of like a boat trip, and it's the only really slightly dull part of this adventure, but it can't be avoided because all the useful items and necessary information can be found on that boat trip. So otherwise it's all good. It's a good old adventure romp. My fun facts for this book. The original cover of the book. This is the original cover. It was illustrated, like I say, by David Gallagher. And from this book on, the series drops the book number from the corner, except for Return to Firetop Mountain, when it makes a miraculous return. The numbers also drop from the spine randomly from a range of books. I'm not really sure why they did that. And it's a little bit annoying if you have an OCD. The number would return for Dead of Night, book 40, so we'll get to that one day. But strangely, the title page of the book does not feature an illustration, as a lot of the other game books did. So that's kind of unusual. Something unrepeated until Darwin Evans' next book, which is Spectral Stalkers, which we'll also get to at some point. And then they had the standard from there onwards. I think from Moonrunner onwards, it goes back to sort of standard until the end of the Puffin range. So yeah, it's very odd. But also strangely, the instructions section at the start of the book features no page numbers at all. And I've checked my book, no page numbers. But the contents page gives an incorrect page number for the contents of the book. So for example, the adventure sheet on page 12 is actually on page 14, which is a bit of an anomaly. But even stranger, the book is missing the printed range from the top. So usually you will get on this page you've got between this number, and on this page you have between this number and this number. And it just helped when you flipped through it to kind of get to your reference quickly. But that's completely gone, as you saw. And as far as I know, it's the only book where it was missing. So maybe it was a printer's thing. I don't know. There is only one error that I could find in this book. So well done, Mr. Darville Evans. And it's really minor. On reference 189, it states and describes a notched scimitar. But in the illustration on reference 22, it's just a straight-edged sword. So it's just a little miscommunication between author and illustrator. Right, so a summary and score for this book. Considered perhaps the least creative of the three Darville Evan entries. Portal is kind of divided into two halves almost. The first half deals with that exploration of all the forests and the lands, and the second half you're transported to that other world, that dimension beyond the portal, in a bid to combat that villain, Horfax. So the writing's very good for a fighting fantasy game book, adding lots of colour to the characters, bringing atmosphere throughout this adventure. And the game design is also quite adequate. Portal seems to be a rarity among the other titles in the series, which were sort of released around that sort of time. At this stage in the Puffin series, almost every title was trying to be innovative and groundbreaking in its own way. All the authors wanted to put their stamp on this series. But here, Darville Evans seems to have just sort of chilled out and gone with what works. The Portal of Evil is, however, it's kind of, I would say it's perfect for the beginnings of beginners to game book, adventure game books in general, with its kind of standard game mechanics and straightforward game design. So on some level, it works quite well for newbies. Now, Portal is quite linear, And while the adventure is not without its challenge level, it does feel quite easy compared to some of the other titles, and certainly his other two. However, it's possible to visit certain key locations out of order in this adventure. So areas are presumably miles apart, but link very closely in one way or another, which makes mapping quite tricky. And finding the correct path surprisingly tough. Act 1 of the adventure consists of the following a path, looking for help and items which will prove useful later on in your quest, whilst having some interesting encounters. And then if you can survive long enough, you'll receive more or less all the information and all the items that you need to complete this book. The sense of sort of being railroaded slightly at that stage is present. It takes away some of the exploration for me sometimes. But that second act is a little bit weaker. There are dinosaurs, but very few interesting encounters. There's also a sort of native culture, but this kind of lacks the character development it needs. So as a result, the second act of the book is a little bit dull for me. The idea of a dinosaur-themed game book was sort of quite a rarity in this series up to this point, maybe with the exception of Book 7, Islands of the Lizard King, which of course was also illustrated by Mr. Langford. The dinosaurs that are roaming around wreaking havoc are actually people. So they were people originally who have been turned into dinosaurs thanks to the villain Horfak's evil plans. So it kind of makes you feel a little bit sorry for them and less likely to throw yourself into a punch-up. So these were creatures they're passing through the portal from another world, but they were just people who fell out with Horfak, I guess, and he punished them. The portal itself was accidentally uncovered by Horfak whilst he was digging mine shafts for all the gold. It's gradually warped him into this kind of hideous mutation. So he's really ugly, and he's got a really messed up face. He's all mutated, and so you're asked to establish what's going on and essentially stop any of this of these shenanigans that he's causing in his attempt to take over the whole of Cool and I assume Titan as well. This one has kind of unusual structure. Starting out, you can go directly to a key town or forest or mountain right from the start. And then if you do this, it feels like the adventure is very small because you can get to that portal right from the start of the book, which is essentially the end game. Because of that, it feels like the adventure, like I say, is quite short, and you'll get quickly to that portal. But because you missed, obviously, so much of the book, like almost a third of it, you've missed all the important stuff. So it's you can't really complete it unless you do take all those scenic routes. So once you find the correct path, it becomes clear that this is actually a huge portion of the book, involving that ride down the river that I mentioned, and a trip over some wastelands, and those kind of paths yield all the essential items and all the information that you can't win without. So yeah, surviving the portal section of this book does involve those essential items. You've got to have them, and that can take some finding. But the other dimension itself is quite an easy part of the book to get through. It's really the first half that's tricky, getting the preparation, getting all the stuff that you need for your adventure to be successful. Horfak as a villain, he's fairly simple to beat once you realise his main vulnerability, which, if you picked up on the clues, you will be able to do without too much trouble because he's so hideously mutated. If you show a mirror to him or put him in front of a mirror, he freaks out and is a lot easier to defeat. So the main problem with the book for me, though, is that it feels a little bit rushed, especially towards the end, after you get through the portal. And while the first part is quite well developed, the second feels like it could have used a little bit more strategy, maybe a longer path even, to get through. And on the positive side, the book, it is a fun read. It will satisfy those looking for a fantasy quest that's not too tough, maybe a beginner. To sum it up, it is an enjoyable but largely average adventure, which falls a little bit short of Darville Evans' previous work, Beneath Nightmare Castle. My advice would be to give priority to that one and potentially Spectral Stalkers, which was an absolute gem, and we'll get to that soon. It shows a lot more creativity than this particular book. So you sum all that up, I would be tempted to give this book a 6 out of 10. Yeah, 6 out of 10 for Portal of Evil. Now, I just want to give a quick shout out to someone on YouTube, Gamebook Collector. I'll put the link in the description. This guy, he's been around for a while and he's checking out all sorts of game books. Final Fantasy is obviously in there. He does these little mini reviews, little mini retrospectives of all the game books he loves. He's really great to sort of follow. So catch him. Yeah, Gamebook Collector. He's all right. He knows his stuff. Yeah, so that is my review of this book. I hope you liked it. Maybe give it a thumbs up if you did, but put some comments in. It's always really good to hear from you and your thoughts on this book and whatever. You know, if you found something in this book that I've missed, chuck it in the comments and I will mention it in the next review, which is going to be, what is that, 38? Is it book 38? Vault of the Vampire? Yes, book 38, Vault of the Vampire by Keith Martin, aka Carl Sargent, which is an absolute classic. I can't wait to review that one. So I will see you in that review.